Right now, on the National Weather Desk, winter arrives with a vengeance in the Pacific Northwest.
Be very careful.
While the eastern half of the country prepares for a big weather change later this week, new information about just how damaging coastal storms have been in New England.
Up to and over 100 feet of dune was lost in some areas.
California's wildfires didn't just burn forests and homes, they also killed millions of bees. After Hurricane Milton spawned dozens of tornadoes in Florida, is it time for the state to get warning sirens?
It's generally not your best investment for community-wide warning.
I think it's a tremendous benefit to our citizens.
2 daring rescues, one on each coast, are caught on camera. And it's another edition of Social Meteorology, where we help you better understand the weather.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Some big weather changes are coming to the Midwest and East later this week. A significant storm will develop in the Great Lakes on Wednesday and spread into the Midwest and also the East. The result will be a wintry mix with heavy mountain snow in West Virginia and Ohio, along with very high winds. There could also be lake effect snow as well. For New England and much of the East, the impact will be rain and maybe even a thunderstorm here. There is a slight threat of severe weather later today in North Texas and central Oklahoma, including Dallas and also Oklahoma City. The Storm Prediction Center puts the risk at 2 out of 5. Thunderstorms with severe gusts and a few tornadoes are possible as well. And snow has arrived in Washington state. Flakes are falling in the mountains east of Seattle, and folks are really excited about this, but there's also worry for some who need to travel through that area. Paul Rivera has more.
So you like the snow?
Yeah, yes.
Alex, who snowboards, says this is a welcome sight at Snoqualmie Pass because last year it took a while for the snowfall to get going.
The temperature wasn't kind of at the ideal level. It's just getting started, but definitely I feel a strong season.
He's hoping more snow gets on the slopes soon. That said, this can make for tough road conditions.
The kind of traction can get a little bit different than what you're used to.
Road conditions were pretty clear on our drive up here. It was a rainy day, but all of that changed up at the pass. Further up the road, we started to see some snow.
If you're coming this way, be very careful.
Marty said he was driving to Seattle and said people need to be cautious. WSP troopers said they will be doing chain enforcement when those requirements are up. As for Marty, he had a slightly different take on this weather.
Honestly, I like snow. Over there or over there, just not here.
And Green Bay is unlikely to see any snow this week, but when they do, it can often fall as part of a snow squall. The National Weather Service only recently started issuing snow squall warnings. Meteorologist Pete Petaniak shows us the danger that they can bring.
A snow squall moves in quickly, suddenly. It's an intense but short duration event. Snow squalls bring periods of moderate to heavy snowfall along with gusty winds, and that results in low visibility or even whiteout conditions and worsening road conditions. And there has been a history of deadly traffic accidents caused by snow squalls.
It's not as if like 8 inches of snow are going to fall in 5 minutes. It's the visibility is like becomes whiteout conditions. Like that's the big driver of bad impacts. Then a lot of the times too, there could be like a flash freeze behind it. So the roads could be really slippery right behind it.
Because snow squalls are so sudden and happen in a localized area, the National Weather Service issues a snow squall warning in the winter, much like they do with a tornado warning in the summer. It's when a snow squall is occurring or will happen in the near future. It's for a specific area, usually lasts under 60 minutes, and it's to get you prepared for what could be dangerous driving conditions.
Tornadoes happen a lot in the spring, but they can pack a punch in the month of November, too. Meteorologist Riley Blackwell takes a look back at a November tornado that happened decades ago in Alabama.
An F4 tornado ripped just south of Huntsville right around rush hour. It was first reported about 4:30 p.m. near the old airport in Madison County. And you can see these pictures from the National Weather Service of Birmingham. Significant damage was reported along and south of Huntsville, buildings damaged and destroyed. And here are some notes about that particular tornado. Overall, we had 21 total fatalities. Around 18 of those were immediately following the tornado, with 463 injuries, around $100 million worth of damage. And even though we had some limitations with the data, it is pretty safe to assume that this was likely the strongest November tornado in Alabama history, and without a doubt, it was the most deadly. So just remember, even though we normally see tornadoes in April, May, and March, November can also be a pretty significant month.
Tropical storm Sarah was downgraded after making landfall in Belize over the weekend. The storm is expected to continue to weaken as it moves over the southern Yucatan Peninsula. This comes after Sarah drenched the northern coast of Honduras Friday, killing at least one person. Officials said there were at least 90 rescues in the country with 47,000 people impacted. The remnants of Sarah are now in the Gulf of Mexico. While they are unlikely to reform into a tropical storm, they will bring heavy rain and strong wind gusts to the Gulf Coast from New Orleans to Florida's Big Bend later tonight and into tomorrow. Some relief for residents in New York and also New Jersey. The Jennings Creek wildfire is now 90% contained. There is still a state of emergency in New York where windy conditions rekindled part of the fire over the weekend, and nearly 100 residents were placed under voluntary evacuation. Now, firefighters have since regained control of the fire, but schools in the area, they're going to be closed today. A wildfire that scorched parts of Southern California over the past couple of weeks has ruined more than just homes, buildings, and trees. Authorities say the so-called mountain fire also destroyed about 150 bee colonies. The loss is expected to impact the state's agricultural industry. Officials say bees are, of course, very important in helping farmers grow their crops. Farmers say they are already thinking about ways to replace those lost bees. In Maine, major storms in the past year have wiped out a huge chunk of beach and sand dunes from some of the state's coastline. Meteorologist Ryan Munn reports newly compiled data shows just how bad the erosion was.
Winter storms last year had a significant impact along some of Maine beaches.
With this 1, 2, 3 punch that we had in December, then the 2 storms in January, you think about it, you kind of had, this beach that got eroded. Then you had this dune area that got eroded in the second storm, where let's say half the dune was lost here. And then in the third storm in January, the January 13th storm, that second half of that dune was lost.
Peter Slavinsky from the Maine Geological Survey noted several locations where the dunes were heavily eroded.
We did see some pretty substantial erosion from these storms. Up to and over 100 feet of dune was lost in some areas, like Popham Beach. 50 feet of dune was lost in Wells, 50 feet of dune in Goose Rocks Beach, over 50 feet at Reed State Park. And those are pretty high numbers.
One of the most significant ways the Maine Geological Survey helped restore the dunes this past year was taking old Christmas trees and laying them along the beach.
So the idea is that the trees, when they're oriented in a certain way, will trap the sand. It'll help grow the dunes back up. And, we were able to regrow about 130 feet of dune that was eroded along sections of Popham Beach this past summer.
The trees were put out starting in March in several different phases, which over time caught sand and helped regrow the dunes and dune grass. Slavinsky says on average, the dunes take about 2 seasons to fully recover.
The U.S. Coast Guard rescued 2 boaters and their dogs from the Chesapeake Bay last week. Their 31-foot sailboat ran aground and was breaking apart in the water between Maryland and Virginia. A helicopter hoisted the men and dogs to safety. No injuries were reported. And a man stuck on a cliff in San Francisco was rescued yesterday. The man was said to be trapped on the cliff and yelling for help before a California Highway Patrol helicopter brought him to safety. He was reportedly not hurt and also refused medical treatment. Northern India is engulfed in thick smog today. Visibility dropped to just a couple hundred feet in the capital city of New Delhi. Multiple flights were reportedly diverted to other cities. The local government urged schools to teach classes online and reportedly tightening restrictions on construction and activities and cars. The air quality index is at the highest point of the season. And for more weather content, be sure to check us out on social media. You can find us on all your favorite platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, ice cover on the Great Lakes continues to decrease. We'll look at how officials plan to address that issue. And also we're going to find out how drought is impacting deer populations across the country.
And we're looking at mainly cloudy skies out there for tonight. We will see the chance for a scattered shower as we head through the nighttime tonight, and then for the day on Monday as well. Temperatures topping out in the 50s across the state, but then lots of sunshine down to our south and west. As we head into the day on Tuesday, we are going to see mainly cloudy skies, but a little bit of sunshine will develop as we head through the daytime. And then for the high temperatures topping out in the 50s to near 60.
I'm meteorologist Amy Aronson, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We've got a really mild day ahead of us. We'll see temperatures well into the upper 60s, actually just shy of 70 to start off a brand new week. Plus, we're dry too. We do have a little cold front passing through, but don't worry, no rain from that system. We will stay dry to start off the week. We will be tracking our next round of showers, but I think that should actually hold off until late Wednesday on midweek. And that's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vetus Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Nashville, 74 degrees. Raleigh, 73. Atlanta, right around 74 degrees. 79 in Pensacola. Temperatures in the upper 70s, low 80s down in Florida. We do have some sun and clouds over the southeast. We have nice sunshine over the Carolinas through Georgia and down through Florida. But we do have a frontal boundary that's going to be moving east. And as that pushes east, there'll be showers and thunderstorms into the Mississippi Delta as we go through the night Monday and then through the east on Tuesday.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Some views of the full moon during the weekend. As a pelican crosses the moon's path while it rows over Murrells Inlet, this view from Tallahassee and along the Tennessee-Virginia border, this time the moon was decorated with a halo. As it neared peak fullness, this ring created by ice crystals refracting the moonlight. Now to Utah and a look at a snowy trail outside of Salt Lake City.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Questions remain after deadly tornadoes from Hurricane Milton killed 6 people and damaged hundreds of homes in Florida. Despite Florida's frequent severe weather, a network of tornado sirens does not exist in that state. Daniela DeRose has more.
Sirens are common in Tornado Alley and across the Midwest. They go off when there's a warning in the area and can be heard for miles. We learned that Florida has the highest frequency of tornadoes per square mile of any state, even more than Oklahoma, but we don't have a network of warning sirens. The I-Team asked Craig Fugate, former director of Florida's Division of Emergency Management, to explain why.
Oh, it's been discussed. If you go back to probably 1998, we had a large tornado outbreak in Central Florida, and we lost 42 lives. And so the first question was, outdoor warning systems.
Fugate says officials decided the idea cost too much and couldn't be heard by people indoors with their windows shut, which most are due to air conditioning.
In the aftermath, it's easy to say we should have had them. The question is how we're going to pay for them, how we're going to maintain them, where we're going to put them, when do we set them off, what do we need to do to educate the public so if they hear those sirens, they know where to go get the information. It's generally not your best investment for community-wide warning, given the advent of wireless emergency alerts.
I think it's a tremendous benefit to our citizens.
Michael Woodward is the fire chief for the city of Oviedo outside of Orlando. After their community was hit hard by tornadoes in 2006, they decided to install sirens on their own. It cost them $173,000 for 10. Annual maintenance costs a few $1,000s. Chief Woodward says they can be heard clearly all over town, and they're going to add more as the city grows.
In Florida, the storms can roll in at a moment's notice, and anything that we can do to provide that enhanced level of notification to our community, it was well worth the money. You can't put a price on a life is what it comes down to.
Last winter, ice cover on the Great Lakes was only 4.3%, the lowest average in 51 years since such record-keeping started in 1973. Meteorologist Colin Rogers reported it's part of a noticeable trend over the past 5 decades.
If you feel like there's been less ice on the Great Lakes over time, you're not wrong. Ice coverage on the Great Lakes has decreased on average about 5% per decade over the last 50 years.
Over the course of the average memory of someone, it's not a large difference. But when you start to accumulate those losses over half a century, it starts to really show up in the numbers.
On an average year, the maximum ice cover on the Great Lakes peaks at about 52%. Years with significantly lower or higher ice coverage are known as low ice or high ice years.
So the probability of seeing a low ice year has increased over time.
Brian Maraska, a meteorologist and physical scientist with the Great Lakes Environmental Research Laboratory, says there is a strong correlation between low ice years and shorter cold blasts.
Duration of these Arctic outbreaks that come down are shorter. Instead of them being 7 or 10 days long, we're seeing much shorter, 2 or 3 days. They're in, they're out. We're real cold, and then we're back above normal again. When you do that all year round, and you never really get this prolonged period of cold, it's just very difficult for ice to take a foothold and get a good grip on the lakes.
While the trend is decreasing, that is not to say we won't have years that are outliers.
But winter's not gone. We still have cold winters, and we will have high ice years. The probability that it will be a lackluster year is increasing.
Wisconsin's 9-day gun deer season is on the way. Last year's harvest in the state was down from previous years due to the weather. This season, hunters will be keeping their eyes on the forecast, which may be impacted by the unusually warm and dry weather. Meteorologist Audrey Lee has more.
Deer like to spend time in lower, wet, thick areas, and those landscapes are going to be drier this fall. So that means access is going to be a little bit better.
The lack of snowfall from last winter will also play a role, potentially increasing harvest.
And what that means to the deer herd, this year is higher fawn productivity, higher fawn survival from the previous year. And so that means, more deer on the landscape to a certain degree.
On opening weekend, over the past 10 years, we saw an average high of 37 degrees with an average low 20s. And this is over the past 10 years. Of those 10 years, only 4 years had either snow on the ground or snow that fell on that day. Now, this year, gun deer opener is a little bit later. Based on historic data for November 23rd and 24th, we're looking at an average high of 40 degrees and average low about 26. So roughly the same, but this year's forecast pushes us close to average in those upper 30s to low 40s and could even see a chance for a wintry precip.
And now time for a segment that we call Social Meteorology, where we share social media posts from our team of meteorologists across the country. We begin with Emily Santum and a recent TikTok post about gravity wave clouds.
Those clouds you're seeing are gravity waves. And in simple words, it's just a wave of air constantly moving through a stable atmosphere. The best way I can explain it is, think about a pebble or a rock, throwing that into the water of like a lake or a pond, and the water ripples is exactly what it is. It's just a ripple pattern. To begin, atmospheric gravity waves need to be triggered by something. Think about mountains or even thunderstorm updrafts. How do we see the little rows of air, then clouds, then air again? The rising air forms the vertical clouds and the sinking air clears everything out. The more you know.
Have you ever seen blue lines in the sky like this? Well, you've seen an atmospherical phenomenon called crepuscular rays. Crepuscular means twilight, right before sunrise or sunset. And those rays are shadows where things like the terrain or clouds are blocking the light. It's because of the low angle of the sun and the atmospherical scattering of sunlight. Now, if you're facing the sun and seeing it, that's a crepuscular ray. But if you're facing away, you're seeing anti-crepuscular. This is a rare event, so if you see it, make sure you take a picture and enjoy. I'm meteorologist Tara Blake.
Do you ever feel like getting away from everything? Well, you can in a way. Did you know that the location in the ocean farthest away from any land, actually has a name, and it sits in the Pacific Ocean. It's called Point Nemo. It's named after the famous submarine sailor in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Point Nemo is some 1,450 nautical miles away from the Easter Island. So that's the closest area of land. It's not an island, Point Nemo, it's just a point in the Pacific Ocean that is farthest from land. Now you know.
And time now for a short break, but first we soar over snowy scenes in Norway.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael, watching some rain moving its way in as we go through the day today across the Midwest. So get ready for it. And also got a little rain-snow mix out here in western North Dakota. But we're going to be watching this rain slowly moving its way across the Midwest for the day today. How about tomorrow? We are cooler behind some of this rain. And by the time that we get to Wednesday, snow building at northern plains.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson, and here's what's happening across the West. We have cooling temperatures and snow levels in our mountain ranges are coming down lower. And as that happens, we're going to have some heavy mountain snow spinning in from low pressure that's tracking across parts of the northern areas of Utah and Colorado. This heavy mountain snow across Idaho and the Cascades, followed by showers and storms and gusty wind for the lowlands. That's the scene from here.
Winter is around the corner. That means kids and parents are thinking about snow days. Anthony Ramos is in Reno, Nevada, and gives us an inside look at how schools monitor the weather and decide if and when to close because of winter weather.
School district officials giving news crews a behind-the-scenes look at how weather-related decisions are made across the district. When weather and road conditions are hazardous, the district may alter school start times or cancel classes altogether.
We're monitoring the weather directly. We're in contact with the National Weather Service and a variety of other partners.
It's important to know when changes are made because it could mean students are out walking to school at different times or using different bus routes.
Not only is it often dark out, we see pedestrians moving in unusual patterns and to different locations at different times. So, like I said, even if you don't have children in school, class delays, especially delayed start times, are something for the entire community to be aware of.
Scott Lee is the director of transportation for the Washoe County School District. He has a message for all community members driving on the roads this upcoming winter.
Slow down, pay attention, be careful because there's going to be a lot more students. And we also need to be aware of our student drivers too. Conditions, this may be the first time that they've ever driven snow.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Monday, and I'll see you right back here